Welcome back to the Urban Eco Woman. I've totally missed you guys. In a city such as Toronto, where entrepreneurship and creativity is literally exploding, it's only fitting that I, the Urban Eco Woman / entrepreneur, empower other entrepreneurs. So I've actually enlisted the help of Adele Spraggon, the founder of Shaped Within and the creator of the revolutionary 4-step repatterning technique to help us out today. So come on in. She's actually invited us out to her mansion. Come on in and get empowered. Hi, Adele.
Hi, Crystal.
Adele holds a master's in humanities. She's also a certified meditation facilitator and has also been referred to as the ordinary guru. And I actually met with Adele back at the yoga conference in April, and I was just super inspired by her story. And since we've been working together with this unique technique that we're going to talk a little bit more about later on, I've had some tremendous breakthroughs. So it was important for me to bring her on the show. So can you give our viewers a little bit of your background story?
Sure, I'd love to. So I've been a meditation facilitator about 25 years. I've been meditating, and then combined with that Masters of Humanities you mentioned, has given me a blend of Eastern and Western wisdoms, I call it. And so what I did was I used that blend of Eastern and Western wisdoms to create a 4-step technique which has people break free of subconscious patterns which hold us back from our most precious goals, basically. Yes. After I graduated from university at the age of 45,
wow.
I wanted my own business. And I started not one, but 3 viable businesses. And I would enroll these really, really powerful partners. They were all built on very creative ideas. But what was happening is every time I would get close to success, I would turn tail and quit. And I couldn't figure out why I kept doing this time and time and time again. And so what I did was I did something unusual. I turned to my journal for help, and I just put the word why at the top of the page. And my journal started pouring out, or it, through me, of course, started pouring out this 4-step technique, which had me break free of this subconscious pattern, which was causing me to quit time and time again. And as I started to apply it, everything shifted. And from that point on, I started teaching it.
Exactly. So that's what I want to get into next. I want to get into what exactly is the 4-step repatterning technique. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so it's this very simple but highly, highly effective method for just removing patterns out of what I call the pattern box. Okay. So human beings are structured to create patterns, and that we have no choice. Our brains are actually structured that way. And your patterns are different than my patterns, which gives you a different worldview than my worldview. And some of your patterns work really, really well, and some of them don't, and the same is true for me. So what this technique does is it just allows us to take that pattern out of the pattern box. And when we remove that pattern, then our future is wide open. Success is imminent. It's just there, available.
So if you can go through the 4 different steps. So what are the 4 steps?
Yeah, so we start with just identifying the pattern.
Okay.
So we just want to know what's going on, right? And then after that, you're going to own it. So it's our pattern, and we're going to say, like, yes, that's mine. I created that pattern, right? Okay. This puts us back in that position of power, because usually we feel pretty powerless inside these spaces where we're not getting to our goal.
Yes.
So the 3rd step then is to do the special form of observation. And inside that form of observation, we actually show up, the pattern shows up for what it really is, just a pattern. And then in the 4th step, we just trust in our ability to create a new pattern.
Because we're very practical here at the Urban Eco Woman, we will take, throughout our conversation, we will implement the 4-step repattern technique so you can get a good understanding of it, hopefully by the end of the conversation. So firstly, let's get into failure, which seems to be synonymous with entrepreneurship. I mean, how do you move past it? Constantly being rejected and just having project after project after project just not going the way you want it to.
Yeah, it's a really good point, right? Because as every entrepreneur knows, the journey to success is a really rocky road.
It sure is.
Right. And as a basic rule of thumb, 80% of what we set out to accomplish, at least in the beginning, is going to fail. 80%.
80%.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the stats is really high. But the thing to know is that as long as you're learning something,
Yes.
are you really failing? Right, really, at the beginning. So to me, failure is just a matter of quitting. As
Okay.
long as you keep going, as long as you're on the court, out there creating stuff, then you will be learning something and eventually you will succeed. You have to fail before you succeed. That's a given.
And I like that you said you have to be on the court. You have to be.
You have to be, yes. So it's a matter of quitting. This is where an understanding of patterns really comes in. Where are you going to quit? If you can predict that, then you can do something about it.
I'll give you an example from my life where I've known that projects are going down the wrong road. I mean, I've lost thousands of dollars from not shutting down projects when I could clear, the red flags are up, like it's not going anywhere, you know, shut it down right now, but I've just kept going. So, I mean, can you help me or help our viewers deconstruct that? How would we go about dealing with that?
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good example. So, well, okay, let me back up a minute and tell you what a pattern is,
Okay.
because a lot of people mix up the result of the pattern with the pattern itself.
Okay.
So a pattern is an intertwined physical sensation, emotion, and thought. And when those three aspects of our being come together, they cause certain actions to take place. In your case, that action is to keep pushing through no matter what.
Regardless of the red flags and everything else.
Yeah. So not trusting that intuition, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what I'd ask you to do is I'd say, okay, Crystal, so think back to when you were in that situation, and where do you feel that in your body? What happens physically?
Physically, where I hold my tension and stress is in, my back.
Okay, so there's a tightening in the back or a
There's
pain in the...
definitely a tightening in the back, and there is also, okay, so that's just a physical.
Yes. Now, what are you feeling emotionally?
Emotionally, I'm brought back to, high school and even elementary school, not so much university, but high school and, elementary school where, I grew up in a home where discourse was important. Like my family, my mom and my dad and my brothers and I, we would sit around the table every night and talk politics and discourse. So that actually didn't work out for me very well, when I got into the classroom with adults and teachers who, saw themselves as, the teacher. So therefore you sit down and you listen to me. There was no real questioning there. And
Right.
it seemed like I was defying authority a lot while asking questions, because this is the environment I grew up in where conversation discourse is so important. And I kind of became almost like, a troublemaker or, just being disrespectful to authority. And
Okay.
my grades were always decent, but I just felt like I was just looked upon that way. When you're looked upon that way, especially at a young age in elementary school, teachers don't necessarily like you as much, right? And when you're not liked by somebody, especially a teacher, it becomes a little problematic. So I've always had this idea that I have to prove something.
Okay.
I have to prove it that I'm going to do well. It's always having to prove myself.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from that.
Yeah, sure. So what I'm hearing then is the thought is I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
And the emotion in there sounds like either stubbornness or frustration, or maybe a combination of the two. Like I'm going to
make it happen. I'm going to make it happen regardless. Like I think a lot of my elementary school and high school teachers were probably shocked that I even made it to university.
Yeah.
So it's just this idea of having to prove things to people.
So definitely a stubbornness then,
Stubbornness
right?
of,
Would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. So the pattern itself is the tension in the back, the emotion stubborn, and the thought, I had better prove myself.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
Now, can you see how with that pattern running, you're going to keep pushing through no matter what?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
You can't step out of that pattern and take the warning signs and say, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Yes.
Right? So that what you just did was the first step in the 4-step process.
Okay.
Okay? It's just to get real, what's happening? What's happening inside? Where do I feel this physically? What's happening to me emotionally? And what's my mental thought when I'm running this pattern?
Yes. I mean obviously that just makes sense. And when you understand that, now that this has come, now that we've discovered this,
Now you can see
now
why
I can
you can't
see
quit.
why, and now
Sure.
I can really pay attention to the red flags,
Yes,
right? And I'll have more money in my bank account. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you may not be able to step out of the pattern with just the first step, because
Okay.
that's only the first step,
Yeah.
right? We then have to remove it from the pattern box. However, that first step is really, really powerful, because it just gets you present to what's going on, right?
Yes.
Why am I doing
Yes.
this? And then you can drop the self-blame.
Moving on, let's get into another pattern that I think plagues all entrepreneurs, which is procrastination. So, do you have some useful tips on how to curb this? Because it could be really counterproductive.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that might sound a little strange. I don't believe that procrastination exists. There is something that's going on under that procrastination. People in general are not lazy. People in general want to get to their goals. People in general are excited when they have something to move forward to, right? And when we have that level of excitement, nothing's going to stop us. So I always say, okay, what's under that procrastination?
Yes.
Take a look at the pattern, because there's something else going on. Is it perfectionism? What's holding you back? Is there a fear of some kind, right? Let's deal with it at that level. And let's not try and deal with it at the surface symptom, the result, which
Yeah.
is the procrastination.
As entrepreneurs, we constantly have a million ideas on the go, and which could be a good thing, because any good entrepreneur must be creative and must be innovative. But the real question is, how do we tame this creative mind?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So first of all, you wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you weren't creative. That's a given, right? And we tend to look at creativity as being something useful, and it is. But it can also be our nemesis, right? So let's back up a moment and look at what patterns do. What's the purpose of patterns? So this moment, this particular moment that you're sitting in right here, is way too complex for our human brain to drink it all in. There's just too much going on. And so it doesn't. What we tend to do instead is we tend to grab little bits and pieces of it. And we use that to create our pattern. And that helps us navigate the world. In other words, patterns are designed to keep you safe, right? That's their whole purpose, is to keep us safe. Putting things on the market doesn't feel safe, right? So it's going against the entire grain of most of our patterns, which is saying, no, don't do this. So this is what gets us into trouble with this creativity. We're already creative people as entrepreneurs, and now you have to be out there on the market, putting your ideas out there so people can see them. And if you struggle with any fear of rejection, any people pleasing, fear of commitment, all sorts of patterns then interfere with that delivery, that deliverable, okay?
Yes.
But being creative feels really safe to the entrepreneur. And so you keep running back to that creativity stage,
Yes.
right? Avoiding the delivery stage.
Okay.
So what you want to do
Yes.
is when it gets to that delivery stage, you want to be looking at, what's my pattern? What's my physical sensation? What's my emotion? What's my thought? What's stopping me?
Yes.
Right? And try and push past, well, not try, deconstruct the pattern so you can get past it and get that delivery onto the market.
And that brought me to my other question, like in accordance with, the 4-step repatterning technique. How do we decipher if it's just another creative idea or if it's a viable business venture?
Really good point. Is it making you cash? Simple answer,
Is
right?
it making you cash? Okay.
Yeah. as entrepreneurs, we're in business to make money. Unfortunately, that's the name of the game,
Yes,
right? Fortunately
yes.
or unfortunately.
Yes.
So if it's not out there on the market, if it's not delivering, then there's something in you that's stopping you from taking that creativity to market.
In closing, the goal of most entrepreneurs is to have successful projects. Can you give us some practical tools on how to go about doing that?
Yeah. The most practical tool I can give you is deal with the reality of the situation. That's it. Most of the time when we have an understanding of patterns, it's really easy to be really real. What's going on, right? What's my physical sensation? What's my emotion? What's my thought? And once you have a tool such as deconstructing patterns in your toolbox, then nothing needs to stand in your way.
Yes.
And you can be so totally self-forgiving, so totally out there on the court taking risks, because it's just patterns. It's only a pattern that's holding you back. So be real, deal with the reality, don't scramble for solution, turn instead inwards, find out what's going on. Deal with that, and you're on your way.
And to be honest with you, and to be honest with my viewers, since I've started using your 4-step repatterning technique in my life, I have seen so many breakthroughs. And I met you at a point where my mom, she's a nice lady and everything, was thinking that I was delusional. I was at the 5-year mark. Things weren't going the way I needed them to go, and I needed something. And I'm so happy that I actually met you at the yoga conference, because everybody around me at a certain point was just like, Crystal, you have to really rethink things. I'm so happy I met you, because this repattern technique really has got me back on track.
Yeah.
Monetarily, I have made way more money than I was making in the last year, in the last couple months since I started doing this.
Yeah.
So I just had to tell you that.
Thank you. Yes.
But I really want to thank you in general for sharing all those useful tips. And since you know that a lot of our viewers are hungry entrepreneurs, I know that you have a special offer for them. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I put together something just for Urban Eco Woman, because I'm so grateful to Crystal, and just to thank everybody here and all of her viewers. It's a 1-week repatterning boot camp, which is going to completely revolutionize your business and get you back on track, starting to get you back on track. Because like Crystal says, if you're not seeing results between 3 and 5 years, there's something going on. So let's deal with those underlying patterns, and so that you can explode out of the gate and be that huge success that you deserve to be. So like I said, it's $10.95, and as a special gift just for you guys, I would like to throw in a 1-hour coaching call with me.
Wow.
Now that is something I don't usually do.
I know, that's awesome.
But I'd love to do that for you. So to get this deal, go to my website, www.shapedwithin.com, and just look for the 7-day repatterning boot camp, Urban Eco Woman. So if you use that code, it'll take you to my calendar, and you can get that 1-hour coaching call as well.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
and
you're welcome.
Please take advantage of it. It's the cost of lunch.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing more from you, Adele.
Thank you. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, viewers.